Being ignored does something to a person that is hard to explain until you have lived through it. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not even obviously violent. It is a quiet cut, the kind that doesn't bleed on the outside but leaves something trembling underneath your skin. Being ignored is a slow erosion of presence, a fading of your outline in someone else's world, a kind of emotional invisibility that makes you doubt whether you ever mattered in the first place. You feel it first in your body before your mind even catches up. There is a tightening in the chest, that strange drop in the stomach, the way your breath gets shallow. The brain interprets silence as threat because silence once meant danger. Long before modern life blurred our relationships with endless screens and half-hearted replies, the tribe was survival. Attention meant protection. To be left out meant vulnerability. So the mind does not treat being ignored as a small inconvenience. It treats it as a wound. People often misunderstand the intensity of that wound. They say it is overthinking or insecurity or sensitivity. But it is older than all of that. It is the echo of childhood moments when you cried and no one came fast enough. When your emotions felt too big. When you learned that love had conditions. Some people grow up in homes where love is direct and predictable, where emotions are met with honesty. Others grow up in places where silence fills the rooms more than conversation, where parents withdraw when overwhelmed or distracted, where a child learns to earn attention rather than expect it. Those early patterns lock themselves deep into the psyche, and as adults we carry them like invisible blueprints. When someone ignores you, it activates that old blueprint. It feels like uncertainty, confusion, self-blame. You wonder what you did wrong. You replay your last conversation as if searching for a hidden landmine. You question your worth in ways you promised yourself you would never do again. Silence makes the mind desperate for a story, and when the other person refuses to give one, the mind writes its own. Unfortunately, the stories we write about ourselves tend to be cruel. It does not even need to be romantic. Friends can do it. Family can do it. Social groups can do it without even noticing. You might walk into a room and feel the temperature drop, not because anything happened but because no one looks up. You send a message and watch the timestamp change while the reply never comes. Your presence becomes optional. Your voice becomes easy to set aside. After a while you begin to wonder if you have become loud only inside your own head. This is the part most people never admit. Being ignored makes you feel replaceable. It makes you feel like your existence does not interrupt anyone's world. And if you already carry wounds, that silence feels like confirmation that you were never enough to begin with. Some people respond to being ignored by chasing harder. They send another message. They apologize for things they didn't do. They try to fix a silence that was never theirs to fix. They fall into the trap of thinking that enough effort can make someone see them. But attention bought with overextension has a short life. It never feels secure, because deep down you know you had to work for it. Others react the opposite way. They shut down entirely. They disappear emotionally. The silence triggers a freeze response. Their instinct is to retreat, to protect themselves before the hurt grows sharper. Both reactions come from the same internal fear, which is the fear of not mattering. What makes being ignored so painful is that it removes your ability to make sense of the situation. If someone argues with you, you can anchor yourself in the conflict. You can respond. You can defend. Silence offers no anchor. It leaves you floating between hope and rejection. The lack of clarity becomes its own form of emotional tension. There is another layer to this experience that often goes unnoticed. The person doing the ignoring has a psychology too. Sometimes they are overwhelmed and retreat without knowing how to explain it. Sometimes they grew up in environments where emotions were handled through withdrawal. Sometimes their silence has nothing to do with you at all. Other times it is avoidance, a refusal to face uncomfortable truths. And then there are cases where silence becomes a form of control. A person realizes that withholding attention creates anxiety in the other, and they use it to keep the upper hand. Not everyone does this consciously, but intent does not change the impact. Silence becomes a language. A cold, ambiguous language where you are left translating meaning from an absence of words. You try to guess if the silence is anger or distance or fear or disinterest. You try to decode someone else's inner world without any clues. The brain hates puzzles without enough pieces, so it fills the missing ones with your deepest insecurities. Over time, being ignored begins shaping the way you see yourself. You start watching your tone more carefully. You soften your needs. You shrink a little to avoid taking up too much space. You question whether your emotions are too heavy for others to carry. You may even convince yourself that invisibility is safer than rejection, so you stop showing parts of yourself that feel tender. This is how people lose their sense of identity piece by piece. Not through dramatic betrayals, but through small moments where they felt unseen. It also changes how you trust. You become cautious. You wait for signs. You test people before opening up. You guard your expectations like fragile objects. Even in moments of closeness, part of you keeps watch for the next disappearance. It is a quiet defense mechanism that forms after too many unanswered messages and too many conversations that ended with nothing but the sound of your own breathing. There is something else too. Being ignored can become a mirror. It reflects back all the parts of you that you have not healed yet. The fear of abandonment. The hunger for validation. The old belief that your value comes from how others respond to you. And while those reflections are uncomfortable, they reveal truths that can shift your entire life if you confront them. You learn things in that silence. You learn that you cannot force presence. You learn that someone's avoidance is not the same as your unworthiness. You learn that people leave for reasons that rarely have anything to do with your value. You learn that your emotions are yours to hold and soothe, not someone else's responsibility. Most importantly, you learn that your voice does not disappear just because someone refuses to hear it. As painful as it is, being ignored can teach you how to choose yourself again. It pushes you toward emotional equilibrium, toward a steadiness that does not depend on someone else's attention. It teaches you the power of stepping back instead of chasing. It teaches you to ask a different question, not why are they ignoring me, but why am I giving this person so much power over my sense of worth? When you understand the psychology of being ignored, you begin to see the difference between silence that comes from someone's own inner chaos and silence that is meant to diminish you. You begin to recognize which wounds belong to you and which ones you inherited. You begin to realize that the ache of being unseen can also be the beginning of seeing yourself more clearly than ever before. Being ignored hurts because you are human. It hurts because connection matters. It hurts because to be acknowledged is to be reminded that you are real. But once you understand the emotional architecture behind that hurt, you gain something stronger than attention. You gain the ability to hold your own shape even when someone else looks away.